I would say that a lot of the iconography is going to be something about the light that emanates from people who are accessing these realms. And I say that because I've read so many reports, and they're not, I think that if some of the monks and nuns who report being lit up right in their cells and things like that, if they were doing psilocybin, if they were doing mushrooms, they would have said so. They would have written it because they write a lot. So the Catholics have immense records. You know, they took good notes.
Well, I don't think it's the only way to do it.
Oh, I know. I
think it's something that they discovered.
And for sure. I think
it's a part of it.
I do. Yeah, I think that. But so the magnetism of what's, you know, this kind of light that's happening, you could see that even in the Shroud of Turin, which is, by the way, an anomalous artifact that scientists have looked at, even atheist scientists have looked at it, and it appears to be some type of imprint from radiation onto a cloth. So I think we're talking about forms of light as well.
But the Shroud of Turin is only 500 years old.
Well, not necessarily. So
really,
yeah. So there are certain parts of it that could have been repaired that are 500 years old. So the problem is there is a whole department of you should get this priest on here, by the way. You'd have a really good discussion with him. Mm-hmm. He's an expert on the Shroud of Turin, and he just came out with new research that's been done about 6 months ago. And there's a whole department in the Vatican just for doing research on the Shroud of Turin. So it's not necessarily just 500 years old. That there are different parts of it. You know how you were talking about the parchment?
Is the Shroud of Turin real after all? 1988 report wrote off the relic as a medieval fake, but now the science seems to be turning. Could it have been a miracle all along? Fascinating. Okay, let's see what it's...
Other than just that.
170 peer-reviewed academic papers on the Shroud have been published in scientific and archaeological journals around the world. Despite all the attention, there's little consensus of just how ancient this ancient linen really is or what it actually shows. The record places the shroud in, how do you say that? Lyrie? L-I-R-E-Y? Northern France, for 4 years until 1357, the Alpine town of Chambéry from 1502 to 1578, where it was damaged by fire before being passed to the Dukes of Savoy in 1578. The Savoys moved it to their capital, Turin, and aside from periods of wartime evacuation, has stayed in the Royal Chapel of San Giovanni Battista Cathedral ever since. Consensus has been the shroud's history pre-1300 will never be established, and yet the French historian Jean-Christine Petitfils, how do you say that? Petitfils has recently published a seriously reviewed 400-page analysis of all the archaeological and scientific studies so far, and in Italy, the peer-reviewed findings of a specialist X-ray study by a team of physicists indicate that the fabric is potentially up to 2,000 years old. There are now 6 studies which challenge the idea that the Turin Shroud has nothing more than a cunning piece of medieval trickery. Could it be something more? The cloth, which has been the object of mass veneration by Catholic faithful for centuries, was acquired by a French knight, Geoffroy de Charny. How do you say that? How would you say that? Charny?
I'm not quite sure.
Who deposited it in a monastery in Lire, about 130 miles east of Paris in 1353. This was a time of unparalleled relic mongering and forgery, and according to the American archaeologist William Meekum, the shroud was most likely arrived in Europe along with many other relics looted from churches and monasteries during the Crusades. Research in 2015 reported the analysis and identification of dust and pollen samples extracted by an adhesive, which suggested that the shroud may have undergone a journey from the ancient Near East after the sack of I can never say his name. I know, I can never say it. Constantinople in 1204. Still, were it not for the poignant image of its folds, chances are it would have disappeared into the mores of other spurious relics kept in thousands of churches all over Western Europe. In Petitfils' latest book, how do you say it? Petitfils?
I'm not actually Petitfils is what I would say.
Petitfils.
But
Les Saints Soirées de Turin témoignent de la Passion de la Jesus Christ. The Holy Shroud of Turin, witness to the Passion of Jesus Christ. He examines more than 100 years of historical, archaeological, and scientific research. His conclusion, the cloth has all the characteristics of authenticity. Interesting. Interesting. Oh, go back.
Okay.
Even those who reject the idea the shroud is a 2,000-year-old, how do you say that word? Sepulchral cloth. Sepulchral cloth. He writes, are unable to explain the imprint of the body. Adversaries of the authenticity of the shroud come up against an enigma. That this one cannot be the work of a counterfeiter because to make such an image would have required unknown scientific knowledge in the Middle Ages. The image is not a painting. No trace of brushstrokes. No outline has been observed even under electron microscope. We must exclude the hypothesis of a smear, the application of a bas relief of wood or marble, or a metal statue heated and placed on the cloth. It was the Catholic Church itself unwittingly sparked what would become a global obsession with the shroud in 1898 when it gave the green light to a rare public exhibition of the cloth. Secondo Pia, an amateur, became the first to photograph the linen's strange sepia shadows and the high contrast created by black and white photography enhanced by blurry stains. When Pia went to the darkroom to check his plates, he was startled to see that the negatives revealed a haunting, perfectly proportional facial image of a serene, bearded man in the imprint of a body tortured by what appears to be flogging, lacerations, and puncture wounds. Can we see an actual image of what the
yeah, that's it.
Is that the actual image?
Yeah.
Can you click on that, Jamie, and make it large? Wow. How bizarre. Where are the puncture wounds? Is that what we're seeing in his stomach
Maybe
area?
right here, this thing.
Yeah, right? And that is where they didn't go through the hands. They did go through the wrists when they crucified people. And then there also appears to be something in his stomach. Like if you look above his right arm, right above the wrist, that looks like a wound, which is what is detailed in the Bible.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Yeah.
So if that really is 2,000 years, very bizarre. Very bizarre. Yeah. You ever hear of the Second Coming Project?
No.
I used to have a joke about it. Second Coming Project was a group of people that were, it was either a troll, they were joking around, or they were serious about it, where they wanted to obtain DNA from the Shroud of Turin and clone Jesus. And that's how Jesus would come
I have
back.
heard about this. That's right. That's right. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Wow, that would be so weird.
Imagine. That's how they do it.
That would be so amazing.
Yeah, that would kind of, that wouldn't create immaculate conception, but it kind of would.
It seems like it.
Right? it's not birthed from a virgin, but it's similar in that regard.
Right.
But that's one of the things that I had a conversation with Taylor Sheridan the other day. We were discussing like what is the Bible trying to say when it describes certain things. But in the beginning there was light, and how God created everything in 6 days. Like, God, doesn't that sound like the Big Bang? Like told through the telephone
I think so.
game?
Yeah, so the Catholic Church and science go together. Like even Catholics can believe in evolution. They don't generally know that. They believe in evolution. It's just theistic evolution.
Right.
That's all.
Right.
And most Catholics don't know that, and I don't know why. But Catholics, we're scientific.
What do you think the physical objects are?
Well, okay, so this is something that's very interesting. We just looked at the Shroud of Turin. I believe that there are these, I would call them, and this is just my own non-scientific term, interdimensional objects. They're objects that have characteristics of our dimension and some other dimension.
So some other dimension has the capability, or something from some other dimension has the capability of transporting a physical object into our realm.
Or even imprinting onto a physical object. Yeah.
How so?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think
What do
that's
you mean
what.
by, what does that mean? Imprinting onto
So
a
with the
physical
Shroud of
object?
Turin,
Okay.
we see the imprint of the image, and
If it's real.
yeah, if it's real. But it's an anomalous object. So we do have from Gary Nolan engineered objects that we don't know how they're engineered, but they definitely look like they're it's off planet. I would call the kinds of things that we see in the historical record interdimensional types of things. Now, how? I don't know, Joe. Okay, so I just don't know. But I do think that scientists in the government know that these things exist, and they would like to figure it out. And so part of disclosure, the disclosure movement, is outsourcing this and trying to get as many people as possible to help in figuring it out.